Nadia tells Glenn to wait. It is difficult and painful for a pampered child to hear such cold words, but for the main character this is great happiness. She was so happy. The girl thanked the Marquis and asked him to be sure to keep his word. Nadia was an illegitimate child of the Balazit family and had a very private life. The girl's sister took out all her anger and pain on her. The woman constantly mocked and humiliated her. The father constantly told the girl that she was doing all this for the family. The daughter was his puppet, which he used in every way, for the sake of the family. Her fiancé had a hand in the death of the main character. Probably God also considered her life pitiful. When the lady opened her eyes again, she returned to one of the days when she was 20. The girls gave a new second life. This time she plans to destroy everyone who brought her to this. Nadia promises herself that she will live only for revenge. To begin with, pretending to be madly in love, she married an old enemy of the Balazit family, the Marquis of Winterfeld from the north. The girl thinks that since she is the daughter of his enemy, of course Glenn could not sincerely fall in love with her. The main character thought that everything turned out as she planned. Now the main character remembers how she walked down the corridor with her fiancé on her arm. The girl twisted her ankle and the guy helped her get there. The girl was worried about the pain in her leg, but something bothered her more, and that was her husband who was too close. Nadia's mind replays moments when the Marquis was kind to her. The girl assumes that the guy might have become interested in her. The great long-term war between the kingdom and demons through the efforts of one hero ended in victory for the kingdom. People welcomed the savior who put an end to this war, and his name was Li Ji-ho. There is a more beautiful description for him. A warrior from another world, a dragon slayer, and also the groom of an abandoned woman from the Duchy of Balazit. When the girl married Lord Li Ji-ho, she didn't look very happy. Their marriage took place before Li Ji-ho became a hero. This is how the whole tragedy began. Nadia Balazit is the daughter of a concubine from the Balazit family, a puppet. When the girl passed by, she heard gossip. The rest said that they did not understand why they needed this useless garbage. Her relatives said that she was humiliating the dignity of their family. The main character never dreamed that her own father would recognize her, because Nadia was constantly compared to her younger sister, who had been spoiled since childhood. And the servants also treated her with disdain. But suddenly she had a chance to gain her father's respect. He proposed to his daughter to marry Li Ji-ho. Back then, Li Ji-ho was a mercenary who was called from another world to protect the kingdom. The speed of his development was so fast that it was frightening. Duke Belisith was sure that if he tied him to his daughter, it would definitely work into his hands, so he entered into a fictitious marriage with Nadia, and they both became pawns of Balazit. As they stood together, the main character asked the guy if he was okay. The same one, after a moment of silence, replied that he would definitely succeed, and no one would dare to ignore him. Even though they were forced to marry, Nadia still had hope that one day they would be able to live like an ordinary husband and wife, until she fell into a trap. The golden-haired lady came to the prison cell. She opened the door and asked what happened to her sister. Nadia insisted that there was a misunderstanding and she could explain everything. The girl asks to call Li Ji-ho. The sister apologizes and says that Lord Li Ji-ho will never come. The main character did not understand what her interlocutor was talking about, but she continued to talk. She said that since Nadia first married him, everything has changed dramatically. After all, now he has become the most important person in this country, and his wife cannot be someone like her sister. Karin Balazit is Nadia's half-sister. She asks what kind of misunderstanding perhaps, and repeats that the girl, apparently, mistakenly thought that she was the one who imprisoned her here. The main character cannot believe it, and says that Karin and her father are involved in everything. At first, it seemed to her that this was because of her enmity with her stepsister. But the golden-haired lady asked if her sister really thought so. This was a major scandal that spread throughout secular society. The father and his daughter and the hero of the country discussed how to get rid of Nadia. Some of them insisted that there was only one way, to give the girl alcohol at the upcoming banquet. She is usually very cautious, so you need to add medicine to make her intoxicated. After that, they planned to place a hired man next to her, and when she woke up, they would call people. The more witnesses, the better. When this happened, people immediately began to make a splash about it. They said that it was very indecent, and it was immediately clear from the girl that she was the daughter of a concubine. They claimed it was shameless. The stepsister asks the main character if she knew that Lord Lee Ji-ho proposed this idea. Come to think of it, after this incident, he never visited Nadia. The girl thought it was because he was disappointed in her. But in fact, he planned everything himself. Even marrying her, the daughter of a concubine, he must have considered discrimination against him. If the Lord had simply offered to divorce, the main character would not have objected because she was a simple brochure, and it was rather stupid to hope for something. Her half-sister claims that then his reputation would suffer, because he is a hero of the war. Nadia asks if her sister came because she felt sorry for him. Now the guy has become a hero, that's why. Karine does not allow the girl to finish her sentence and claims that she can say whatever she wants. This is her last chance, because this is all she has left. The golden-haired woman claps her hands and asks, who will accept the one who was abandoned by her husband because of a relationship with another man? Who might the girl be an illegitimate child and will not be able to marry anyone other than a simple worker? So she will help her sister just once. She says that her father wanted to let her stay, but Nadia decided to commit suicide because of the feeling of shame. Two men attack a girl and try to put her into eternal sleep. The golden-haired lady claims that once the main character's name is tarnished by her shameless act, she will be remembered as a girl who knows the feeling of shame. Nadia thinks she doesn't want to say goodbye to her life. Will she really end up like this? All her life she did as her father said. She was obedient. As a child, she always looked at her stepmother's reaction. She couldn't even breathe without her permission. Stepsister took away all the good things from her, and now the golden-haired lady says goodbye to her sister and says with a rash of fake smiles that she will miss her. In the end, the girl ended her life after living only 23 years. The main character thought that everything would end like this, but when she opened her eyes, she returned to one of the days when she was 20. Nadia noticed that there was no rope around her neck and wondered how she could survive. In her dark consciousness, she definitely felt how the dark end of her life envelops her body, but the girl woke up absolutely healthy in her room. And besides, everyone here looks the same as 3 years ago. She had another chance, a chance to take revenge on her selfish fiancé, her sister who laughed while she was being killed, and her father who used her, and then got rid of her like some kind of trash. The main character stands near the mirror and thinks about what other people would choose if they were given a second chance. Maybe they would like to live for love or live a long time in full health. The girl, after thinking a little, chooses revenge. The maid comes into Nadia's room and says that when she woke up, she should have immediately rung the bell. Because of her brown-haired hair, she could not clean the room. She sees that the girl is touching her reflection in the mirror and says that if she touches the mirror with her hands, stains will remain on it. The maid pushes the main character away and begins to wipe the mirror and angrily reproach her mistress that she doesn't even know something simple. Nadia was worried that this could all be a dream, but the girl really somehow returned to the past. Because this maid was responsible for keeping her room clean before Karine finished her off 3 years ago. In addition, on the day of the banquet, when the main character was captured, she, on Karine's orders, slipped her alcohol, she drank it, and lost consciousness. This is too suspicious to be called a coincidence. Then Nadia did not understand that the servant had deceived her into this trap. But now everything is different, and she will not fall for it again. She asked what this facial expression was on her mistress's face, and whether she wanted to tell her something. The brown-haired woman thanks her service for always cleaning her room and tells her what will come out. The maid notices that the atmosphere has somehow changed. When Nadia leaves her room into the corridor, she is greeted by the maid. She claims that His Majesty the King has come to see the Duke, and the lady needs to prepare to meet His Majesty. The main character does not understand why the king visited her father. The girl says it's just in time and she'll be ready soon. Nadia meets her father and claims that he called her. The Duke says that his daughter was very late. The girl says that she was getting ready in a hurry. She understands that her father looks at her as if she were some kind of non-entity. In the past, she was afraid of this look and humbly obeyed, trembling with fear. The father steps further and claims that he will tell everything along the way, so she must listen carefully. It will be about the triumphal ceremony. That's why the king came. His daughter and Karain must take care of the tea. Also, the question will arise that she will reward Lord Jiho with a laurel crown, and she needs to agree to this. Nadia tells her father that she will do this, and in her thoughts she understands that the king came because of the ceremony on the occasion of the triumph during the Kalai expedition. Holding such ceremonies is a long-standing tradition. In it, a girl of married age places a laurel wreath on the hero, for whose sake the ceremony is being held. In other words, it is a declaration of love. The problem is that one of the people being honored at this ceremony is a northerner, which means he is the South's worst enemy. The girl realizes that this is probably why the king wants to shift the focus to something else, allowing her to present the wreath to Li Jiho. They want to bind the lord to her through marriage. Even if the main character refuses, her father will not listen, but she needs a chance to free herself from her father and Li Jiho. The duke and his daughter enter the room. The king insists that he was waiting for him, and the duke must know why he came to him. The man asks how he can know because he does not have mind reading. His Majesty comes to the topic and says that the Kalai Expeditionary Force demanded a triumphal ceremony. His interlocutor says that they deserve it, and it is worth doing as they ask. Kroll hits the table with his hand, causing tea to spill on the floor, and claims that the problem is not this. But who is in this squad? One of the leaders of the greatest merits is their worst enemy from the north, the Marquis of Winterfell. At this ceremony, he will receive a lot of attention. Then the northerners may think too much of themselves. His Highness asks how you can talk about something like this so calmly. The Duke claims that he doesn't have to worry about it because he will shift the focus of the ceremony to something else. He has a plan to tie the hands of the northerners. The king immediately asks Togo to quickly tell about this. The main character is surprised how the man took seriously everything her father said without hesitation. No wonder the northerners are unhappy. The Duke claims that he will tie the Marquis in marriage. The king must use his authority and order him to marry. His bride must be the daughter of a noble from the south. Then they can stop him from teaming up with someone from the north. Hearing this, Nadia remembers that after she and Li Jiho became spouses, as a reward for success in the expedition, the Marquis of Winterfell also got married. Of course, his bride was a girl from the family whom his father introduced to the king. According to rumors, she cried constantly because of the Duke's cruelty and eventually ran away. The main character felt sorry for the girl who became just a puppet in her father's plans. The brown-haired girl comes to the realization that if she now becomes this girl, then she will be able to avoid marriage with the Lord and revenge. But she can't be rash. It's too early to talk about that. He claims that this is a good idea and asks who will voluntarily give him their daughter. The Duke suggests that the king does not believe in the loyalty of his servants. For the sake of the country, people will certainly give up their daughter. Nadia realizes that this is her chance. She turns to His Highness and asks for forgiveness. The girl says that she would like to tell him something. The king allows the main character to speak. Her father asks how dare she interfere in the conversation. But the girl ignores this and says that if they need someone who will have to go to the enemy camp to the north, then she can do it. The Duke is a little puzzled by this answer. He clenches his fist. Nadia says that she is from the Balazit family, which has served His Majesty all her life, so she deserves the most trust. She asks to be allowed to marry the enemy for the sake of the king and the well-being of their country. In her thoughts, the girl apologizes to her father for no longer being a pawn in his hands. His Highness repeats the girl's words that she is going to marry the Marquis of Winterfell. The Duke claims that his daughter does not seem to understand what she is talking about, and must not know what his relationship with Winterfell is. His Highness says that this is a commendable decision. But as the girl's father said, their families are sworn enemies. It will be much easier to force someone else than to marry Nadia to him. The bad Marquis of Winterfell may not take her as his wife. But still, the girl said that she had a great idea. Nadia replies that it is. At this ceremony, she will present the laurel wreath to the Marquis of Winterfell. Duke, answer that his daughter is stupid, and ask if she thinks that he will just accept this wreath from her. The main character claims that no one has yet refused a laurel wreath. The father puts his hand on his head and answer that they have already planned that the girl will present the wreath to Li Ji-ho. The brown-haired woman doesn't know what to answer at first, but then says that he won't refuse her. When asked by her father why, she replies that she listened to their conversation while she was preparing tea, and asks if the Marquis himself did not demand this ceremony. She argues that there is a point in awarding a wreath, but if someone refuses the wreath, the situation changes, and all attention will be on the poor thing who is denied her recognition. Of course, the hero is the one whom people love, but the love between two is much more interesting and exciting. The main character says that people will quickly forget about his merits, and asks if he will really decide with his own hands to destroy everything he strived for so much. So he will accept the wreath, and then the father does not allow the brown-haired woman to finish his sentence, and says that His Majesty can influence him so that he cannot refuse, then he will have no choice. The daughter claims that this is true, and tells His Majesty to insist on the marriage under the pretext of the plea of the official's daughter. Then he will become a magnanimous ruler who only wants to make the love of a noble lady a reality. The king says that this is an insidious plan, but he is very convincing. Still, he is a little worried, because he must send the duke's daughter to the enemy camp. So he decides to first ask the duke what he thinks about this. The father claims that he did not know that his daughter had such a wonderful plan, and decides that at this ceremony his daughter will present a wreath to the Marquis of Winterfell. But judging by the way he clasps his hands on his knees, it can be understood that he wants this. After His Highness left, Karain claims that she knew that her sister was stupid, but did not think that she was so stupid, because she did all this knowing who this Marquis was, which means she was going to voluntarily go north even knowing that this was their enemy. The younger sister asks her father to say something, but he tells her to stop and says that it is none of her business. He tells Nadia to explain what she was thinking by suggesting this, because he made it clear exactly what her role is. The man asks if his daughter dared to disobey the order. Although the main character has received His Majesty's permission, if she cannot convince her father, she will lose again. So she must make the right move. The girl claims that she has no desire to marry a stranger whose origins are unknown, although only half, but she has Balazit blood flowing in her. The duke asks if it is only because of this, because of her unnecessary pride, they must now give all honor to the Marquis of Winterfell. The brown-haired woman is scared, but understands that she no longer wants to live like a pawn. She claims that her father needs to let him experience this just for a moment. The daughter asks whether it is more important to prevent a possible rebellion. Because of this, they tried to divert people's interest from the ceremony. The father asks how she knew. The girl realizes that she has hit the bull's eye. The reason why father reacts so strongly to the glory of the Northerners is that the imperial family is now, without exaggeration, a puppet of the Balasith Duchy. In other words, this is exactly what my father has been trying to achieve for so long. The king himself is in his hands, but at the same time, he has the most vulnerable position. There have been many cases when, in such turbulent times as now, the heads of the province started a rebellion. That's why the father is worried. The Marquis is threatening his position. The main character realizes that she must dig deeper into what he is afraid of. She claims that even if not at this ceremony, they will still gather in secret. Whoever gets all the glory should be watching them, and this ceremony is the best place for that. They will give the animal which is thirsty a drink and put a collar on it. The Duke became interested in such a story. Nadia continues to say that if she marries the Marchioness of Winterfell, they will be able to learn more quickly about changes in the north. Thanks to the sacrifice of the brown-haired woman, they will be able to strengthen their position. The girl asks her father to let her do this for the sake of their family. The man thinks that this actually makes sense. This expedition did not go as he expected. Because of the success of the Northerners, they are forced to organize a ceremony. But if Nadia went north as Winterfell's consort, they would be able to learn about their movements faster. This is a good chance to place a spy in his circle. The Duke agrees with his daughter and says that they will do as she wants. Karain did not expect such an answer. She asks her father if he will really send her sister to the north, and asks what about Lord Li Ji-ho, because he wanted to give Nadia for him. A man tells his daughter to shut up so he can find him a new bride. The Duke turns to his older sister and asks what she really wants. He knows well that the girl is not doing this for his sake, and asks what she wants to get for her sacrifice. The main character understands that so far, she has been able to deceive him. Now she just needs to answer this question correctly. She claims that she wants freedom. One day, her father will defeat his enemy, Winterfell. The brown-haired woman asks her father to allow her to live like a rich widow. Unmarried girls are condemned by society, but widows and divorcees are not. Nadia claims that even if she doesn't remarry, she no longer wants to bear their family's name. She does not want to be associated with someone. The girl wants an ordinary life, and asks if her father can promise her this. After such a tense conversation, the main character goes out into the corridor. The deal was successful. The very first day she returned to the past, she managed to avoid marriage to Lee Ji-ho. Nadia looks out the window and sees a maid who shouts that they are to blame and asks to believe her. The head maid orders her to shut up, and asks how she dared to touch the mistress's things. The maid, captured by the knights, looks at her mistress and screams that she did not steal anything. She prays to the main character to do something, but the brown-haired girl doesn't seem very worried about this, because she was the one who framed the maid. In the morning, the main character took the jewelry from the box and attached it to the maid's dress. She realizes that Karen's puppet has been kicked out. She was given a chance to cope with everything on her own. Although Nadia is still far from revenge, she needs to spell out her future plans in detail. While she was making plans to destroy the Balasith Duchy, it was time for the ceremony. The servant informs the Marquis that preparations for the ceremony have been completed and asks him to lead the detachment because they are leaving. Flower petals were flying everywhere as part of the congratulations to the squad on their victory. Watching the soldiers march in formation, people joyfully greeted them. The main character understands that everything is exactly the same as in her previous life. Starting from the clothes and jewelry that she is currently wearing, to the places where everyone sits. If the girl had not interfered, everything would have gone on as in the previous life. The younger sister looks at her jewelry in Nadia's hands, and asks what her sister will do if a crack appears on her pendant. She claims that she borrowed it, because it was her father's order that once the ceremony is over, the girl must put it back. The main character thinks about how Karain claimed that she lent her mother's jewelry, but she does not have the strength to answer her. Previously, the brown-haired girl always tried to please her, but now she doesn't care about her younger sister, because she will definitely run away from there. The Duke raises his hand and tells him to stop, because the detachment will arrive soon. He tells his daughter to get ready, try not to screw up, and honorably present the wreath to Glenn of Winterfell. There was only one thing in which the ceremony from a past life differed from today's. The main character to whom she presented the wreath was the Marquis of Glenn of Winterfell. The main character looks at the man behind him. It is Lee Ji-ho, the one who should be the hero of this ceremony, her ex-husband. Although they did not marry for love, there seemed to be some kind of connection between them. The girl remembers how he said that to make it as if this marriage never happened. There is only one way. But at the upcoming banquet, give Nadia alcohol with medicine, and after that put a hired man next to her, and after she wakes up, call people. The brown-haired girl's heart is beating so fast now. The king announced that for the exploits of the knights, he would grant them glory. They respond that it is an honor for them. His Highness claims to have heard that Winterfell's merits were particularly high in this expedition. Having learned about this, his soul became very warm. The Marquis asks for forgiveness and says that the rumors are exaggerated. The king tells him to cast aside modesty. Looking at him, he remembers the past ruler of Winterfell. He was also an outstanding knight. The man claims that Glenn's loyalty to Winterfell is worthy of praise, and if his father, chained to his bed, knew about his exploits, he would definitely be glad. The Marquis does not answer. The main character understands that the most painful topic for the Marquis of Winterfell is connected with his father, but His Highness still talked about it. The king says that he should reward the guy's family for their loyalty, but he says that it is enough for them that his lordship knows about it. The ruler says that young people at this time are very serious. By order of the king, the official ceremony began. His Highness announced that today they had all gathered here to congratulate the heroes on their victory in the Kalia expedition. Immediately after this, the greeting of families began, and the Duke of Balasith was the first to meet the Marquis of Glen. He congratulated the young master of Winterfell and extended his hand. The guy replied that he inherited the title and is now a marquis. Glen argues that if the Duke's memory fails him, then it is better for him to leave his post and rest. The man moves his hand back a little and says that he was mistaken. But even though Glen became a marquis at such a young age, he still lacks a lot. Glen asks what could be difficult for a man in the prime of his life. The Duke says that the guy is not really like the last Marquis with his ardor. Then he gasps and says that we are talking about a man who had an accident and he is really sorry. It's time to hand over the gifts prepared for the heroes. Nadia comes out with a bouquet and is happy that it's finally her turn. The girl holds a wreath in her thin hands and heads towards the knights. The Marquis understands why his enemy happily agreed to hold the ceremony. He decided to change the essence of the ceremony. Then the owner of that wreath should be Li Ji-ho. After all, anyone knows that her father supports him. Glen thinks that this ceremony was originally just for himself, so he should just quietly skip it. Come to think of it, this expedition took longer than the guy thought. The Marquis suggests that a mountain of things must have accumulated at home. It would be nice if they paid them enough as a reward. Glen opens his eyes and sees Nadia with a laurel wreath in front of him. He doesn't understand why Balazit's daughter is standing in front of him. He thinks that the girl is worried because of the large number of people. The Marquis leans over to the main character and whispers that she made a mistake due to excitement. He points his finger at the guy with black hair standing behind him, claiming that it is Li Ji-ho. Glen invites the girl to slowly walk in that direction, and everyone will turn a blind eye to her little mistake due to excitement. But Nadia does not budge. She claims that she was not mistaken. The Marquis asks the girl what she is talking about. The brown-haired woman says that the Marquis of Winterfell has not left her mind for a long time. She hands the guy a laurel wreath and asks him to accept it. The crowd begins to gossip, but the girl continues to say that she fell in love with Glen at first sight. As soon as she saw and felt that he was the one who could take care of her for the rest of her life, the head of Winterfell never expected this. He leans over to the lady and asks if she knows what it means when an adult girl gives a wreath to a man. The main character understands that the guy is much ruder than they say about him. Nadia assures that she knows, and now she confesses her love. His Majesty turns to the Marquis of Winterfell. He claims that the beautiful lady is waiting, and asks why the guy is silent. Glen says he doesn't deserve this wreath and can't accept it. He has no idea what's going on, but the guy doesn't like it. He can't fall for it. The main character was ready for such a reaction, because he would not accept him so easily. She apologizes to the Marquis in advance, and thinks that it will also be beneficial for him to marry her. The girl understands that nothing can be done, and she will have to push a little. The brown-haired woman grabs the man's sleeve and says that if he is worried about her being the daughter of a concubine, he can just accept the wreath and not worry about her. Nadia is planned to first evoke pity among the people, and she succeeds. The Marquise turns to the main character and asks what she is talking about. But the pillars immediately hear indignation why the Marquise does not accept the wreath. The common people claim that he is making the young lady disgraceful. They ask if he takes it out on this young lady because of his differences with the Duke. The people urge the guy to accept the sincere love of Lady Balasith. The Marquise understands that his enemies wanted to destroy the ceremony with his own hands. The guy grabs the bouquet and claims that this is a long conversation and they will continue later. He turns around and leaves with a laurel wreath. The main character understands that she succeeded. She sighs with relief because she was able to change the future. The Duke and his daughters go into the carriage. He claims that Nadia is great. It was worth it to see Glen's confused face. He has no choice but to accept the offer. The eldest daughter smiles and replies that he should not thank her. Suddenly someone screams, "It's Lord Li Ji-ho." He shouts that he urgently needs to talk to the Duke. The man asks what's the matter and claims that the guy must be tired, having come all this way. He wonders why the Lord doesn't go to rest. Li Ji-ho says that he must urgently ask the Duke something. The guy heard that at today's ceremony, Lady Nadia was supposed to present a wreath to him and asks what happened. The main character looks at her father and wonders if he really told him in advance. The Duke understands what the guy is talking about and claims that this happened because the matter was urgent, so he could not inform Li Ji-ho. The man apologizes and says that he will find a more suitable match for the Lord, so he should not be upset. Well, the guy screams that he didn't come to the man to look for a new bride. He wants to know why the Duke changed his plans. The blonde replies that there was a reason for that and this is not the place to talk about it. The Lord cries out. Doesn't it seem to the Duke that this is too much? Before he joined the army, a similar incident occurred. The father screams, pointing at the guy. What does he want now? Because the ceremony has already taken place. The Lord is a little scared. The Duke, having calmed down, puts his hand on his shoulder and says that in any case it was his mistake, because he did not warn Li Ji-ho. He asks Togo to believe that he will make amends and make up for it. The blonde asks if the guy understands what he is talking about. The Lord says he understands and agrees with the man. After this, the Duke climbs into the carriage and calls his daughters. The main character notices the look of her husband in a past life. The girl does not understand why he has such an expression on his face, although now it makes no difference to her. Now she doesn't care, because he was the first to betray her. The Marquis returned to his mansion. Now he is sitting at his desk and thinking about something. He sighs. The servant turns to his master and says that he heard that in the market, everyone was only talking about the ceremony that had taken place. The lady, who was rarely seen, confessed her love to the Marquis. The guy assures that his master needs to somehow react to this. Otherwise, he will be forcibly married. Glenn closes his eyes, covering his face with his hand, and says that it is already late. He tells his servant to read the letter lying on the table. The guy notices that this is a letter from the royal family. After reading it, the servant understands that although this is veiled, they are telling the Marquis to get married. Glenn says that this is true, and if he continues to refuse, they will consider it as disobedience to the king's orders. The guy screams that this is already too much and asks why they are doing this to his master after all. Take at least this expedition. The Marquis obediently agreed. What else do they need? The servant claims that, in addition, their land army stably pays taxes. But even so, the government still doubts Glenn. The Marquis assumes that Duke Balazit did this because he wants to convict him of rebellion. The northern territory in which Winterfell is located was not always part of the kingdom. It was subjugated 100 years ago. The north and the south, which differed both in culture and in many other ways, could not easily make friends with each other. The northern army defended the border in the north from monsters, which ensured security and fertility for the south. But the southerners, despite this, considered the northerners wild and scary. So the previous Marquis and Marchioness of Winterfell got into an accident because of someone's conspiracy, and the Duke of Balasith falls under suspicion the most. From there, the Duke presents the Marquis of Winterfell with a laurel wreath. Glenn says there are 2 reasons why they want this marriage to happen. Firstly, so that you prevent the northerners from creating an alliance through marriage, and secondly, sending spies into the enemy camp. The servant says that this is a great way to find out about a possible rebellion before anyone else. And also Lord Li Ji-ho. According to people from the ceremony, Lady Nadia was supposed to present the wreath to him. They say he was terribly surprised by what happened. Glenn asks if it was meant for him. The servant replies that yes, he heard that Lady Nadia and Lord Li Ji-ho secretly promised to unite hearts and lives. It seems that the plan regarding Lord Ji-ho was changed in a hurry. I remember they didn't say anything about it. The Marquis looks at the laurel wreath and realizes that he was right about the fact that this wreath was intended for the brunette. He claims that he will have to do as His Majesty wants, otherwise they will have an excellent reason to attack. The servant says that the girl is the daughter of the Duke. Glenn tells the guy not to worry, because no matter how you look, Nadia is just a beautiful daughter of the Duke. She will not be able to do anything on foreign land without a single ally. He doubts that the girl will withstand the cold attitude of the servants for at least a week, because it cannot be otherwise. She herself will want to return home, and the Marquis will have nothing to do with it. As a result, the Winterfell and Balasith families united. The wedding took place on the territory of Winterfell, and the engagement took place in the capital. After they quickly dealt with these minor matters, a banquet was held at the Balazit mansion to celebrate the arrival of the new family. The nobles who mocked the main character continued to gossip, and said that she had no shame or conscience. The girl's father was enjoying what was happening, but now Nadia had no time to pay attention to them. The brown-haired woman invited the Marquis to dance. She must correspond to the image of a noblewoman in love, who, burning with love, looks at only one person. The girl felt something at the ceremony. The Marquis of Winterfell became even more wary of the Balasith family. The main character understands that first, she needs to show him that she is not dangerous. Glenn bends the girl over to dance and asks what she is thinking about, but Nadia was not taken aback and said that she thought how handsome Glenn was. The Marquis says that the girl calls him by name, although they are not close at all. He tells the girl to call him Marquis of Winterfell. The main character agrees, but at the end, Glenn specifically adds. The guy lets go of the girl's hands and says that he even wonders if she will also be able to smile brightly in the north. He leaves the main character alone, and everyone around begins to gossip. Someone says that the girl is poor and asks why she fell in love with a northerner. Others say that she cannot raise her head out of shame. Nadia is happy. Finally, the guy has left. Vienna can no longer squeeze out a smile. Brown-haired woman goes out onto the balcony and thinks how difficult it is. Her whole body is cramping from the fact that she forces herself to smile all day. Someone calls the main character. It was Lee Ji-ho who finally found the girl. Nadia asks what's the matter and thinks why did he come. The guy claims he came because he wanted to ask something. The brown-haired woman asks what he wants to ask, but she has nothing more to say to the Lord. The guy asks if she really hates marriage to him. The main character did not expect such a question. The guy continues and asks whether it is better for the girl to endure humiliation and sidelong glances, to go to the very center of the enemy camp, than to be with him. Nadia claims that she understands what the brunette is talking about, because from the very beginning it was not clearly decided that they would get married. Lee Ji-ho says that the Duke has already told him everything. Plans changed at the request of the girl. Brown-haired woman, you answer that then she has nothing more to say. But the Lord does not back down. He asks if he is really not worthy to hear the truth, and therefore only that he is a stranger and his origin is unknown. Nadia doesn't understand what's wrong with him because he was the one who betrayed her first. She, clenching her fists, says that the Lord himself was not happy about their marriage. The guy asks when he said that, but the brown-haired Ko says that she's not a fool. Ji-ho was worried about being discriminated against because of his origin, and asks if that's why he would like to marry a girl from a noble family. Nadia claims that she is just an abandoned person, and if the guys had offered to marry Karain, he would not have doubted it for a second. Ji-ho is surprised by this question and doesn't answer. As the brown-haired girl thought, he cannot answer anything, which means Karain's words were true. What was the girl waiting for? The lady says that they are not suitable for each other, so she suggests that they each go their own ways. She leaves the Lord alone. The girl came to the garden. She thinks that at least she can be alone here, but at the same moment she hears someone's steps. It turns out to be Karain. She asks if they can talk. The main character asks why her sister came here and is saddened in her thoughts that she cannot be left alone for a minute. The golden-haired girl pokes her sister in the forehead and asks why she follows the man around and disgraces their family. She doesn't think that Karain will just tolerate it. The lady claims that as the true daughter of the family, it is her responsibility to warn Nadia. She asks if she was jealous that her father only cares about his younger sister, and if she wanted to get his attention. So she did this. Karain calls her sister a poor thing, and claims that no matter how hard she tries, she will still remain a pawn. The brown-haired girl grins and agrees with her sister. She asks if Karain thought that they are not so different. She failed to marry Lord Ji-ho, so now it's the golden-haired lady's turn. The younger sister lashes out at Nadia in a rage, and claims that she is the Duchess's daughter. The brown-haired woman asks if her sister still believes her father, because for him, a daughter is just a way to achieve a goal. Karain is furious, and asks how she dares to classify her among such scum, and whether she is laughing at her now. The girl threatens to tell her father about everything, but Nadia's gaze is directed at Karain's neck, where her mother's necklace hangs. The younger sister notices that the girl is looking at her mother's jewelry. She takes it off and asks if it is the jewelry that Nadia's mother received from her father. The golden-haired lady claims that he gave it because he thought that she would give birth to a son. A girl appeared, and the brown-haired woman did not deserve it. She asks if the girl wants to take it. If yes, then let him kneel and belittle. Khura'in orders her to repeat the words that the girl is sorry for acting so recklessly towards her, and will never irritate her younger sister again. The golden-haired lady claims that if she begs convincingly, she will forgive, or just get rid of him because she has a lot of such trinkets. You can throw one away. She began to hold her hand with the necklace over the pond. The main character is furious. Her sister asks if she wants to. If nothing can be done, the girl is already preparing to throw the necklace into the pond, but the brown-haired woman stops her and asks if her sister will really give him away if she gets on her knees. My sister assures me that this will happen. She thinks that Nadia has nothing left. Such a quiet girl suddenly starts showing herself and irritating her. Now she will learn her lesson. In any case, the golden-haired lady is not going to return the jewelry. She orders the main character to kneel faster because she is generous if you ask nicely. The brown-haired woman, without wasting any time, throws her sister into the pond, even in shock and furiously screaming whether Nadia has gone crazy and what the hell is she doing, because she doesn't think that Khura'in is letting her get away with this. The main character asks what will happen if she doesn't let her down. She holds the jewelry in her hands and claims that the golden-haired lady would still not return it no matter how much she begged. A similar thing happened in a past life. Then the brown-haired woman unquestioningly obeyed her sister, but as a result, she was never able to return the necklace. The main character says that as a child, she thought a lot about this. Where did her sisters come from so much hatred towards her? She was wondering if Khura'in would recognize her as her sister, if she did as she said. But she realized that the younger sister hated her for no reason. Therefore, now she gave Khura'in a real reason to hate her. The golden-haired lady does not recognize her sister. In her thoughts, she asks if this is exactly the Nadia she knew. The girl gets goosebumps. Her sister is like a different person. People came running to the screams. They started shouting that the person was in the water, and they needed to quickly bring something to cover her. One of the guys puts his jacket on the lady and asks if she's okay. The Duke runs out into the street and asks what kind of noise his daughter made in the middle of the night. Khura'in immediately rushes into her father's arms with tears in her eyes. She screams that it's all that dirty girl and points at Nadia. She thinks that her sister has come to an end. The Duke asks if this is true. Khura'in is sure that the girls will not leave because she has evidence. But the main character only finds it funny to hear such words. She covers her mouth with her hands so that no one notices. The brown-haired girl turns to her sister and says that despite all her hatred, "How can you lie like that?" She didn't listen to her and still went to the edge, and she said that it was dangerous there. Nadia claims that she was only trying to get her out of there, and asks if her sister is afraid that they will think badly of her, but her lies disgrace their family more. The golden-haired lady claims that it was Nadia. Her sister threatened her with her mother's necklace, and the girl pushed her. Some of the people start whispering about threats. They say since she threatened with the necklace, it means she has a bad character. They ponder why the heirloom of the mother of the first daughter is in the second, and wonder if she is loved more in the duchy. Khura'in says that this is not so and is trying to straighten out, but the Duke puts his hand on her shoulder and says that she is cold. She better go back to the restroom before she catches a cold. He thinks that if he leaves this matter, rumors will circulate among the rumors. The golden-haired lady is indignant that this is unfair. She asks to listen to her. The father just shouts to the servant to take Karen into the room. He tells the guests that there was a small quarrel between the sisters, and he is sorry that it happened on such a bright day. But people leave and continue to gossip along the way. They claim that the noble daughter of Balasith brought such disgrace to the family. One of the ladies says that she knew that someday this would happen, and she would remain quiet for a while. Friction notices that the father did not side with Khura'in, contrary to what she expected, but now it doesn't matter to her, because she returned her mother's necklace and can now safely leave this place. The Marquis with the knights is in the forest near the lands of Winterfell. One of the knights calls his master. Glenn claims that he is too noisy and should return to his place. Fabian tells the Marquis not to be like that. He will only ask something and come back. However, this is a figurative question. The servant asks whether the mistress's confession was not sincere. and the guy at the same moment kicks his servant. The Marquis claims that if the guy is going to continue talking such nonsense, then let him get lost. Fabian says that you also know that she is deceiving his master. But looking at her face during the ceremony, it seemed to him that she was sincere and the guy is not particularly sure that she was lying. Glenn tells his servant not to trust appearances. Nadia is the daughter of a duke. She could stab her in the back at any moment. He invites Fabian to just look at her devotion. He wonders if it is true in order to help their family in difficult times, or the girl only plans to keep an eye on them. The knight understands that his master is right. The Marquis says that if the guy understands, then let him return to his place, because he is the girl's guard and must be careful. If she has a problem, it will become a headache. Fabian returns to the carriage. He thinks that he is happy to go with her after what he heard. This worries him even more. The main character looks out from the carriage and tells her escort that she wanted to talk to him, but the knight disappeared, so she had to wait. Fabian. He almost faints from this. He says that he had a small matter, and he hopes that the girl did not hear their conversation. Nadia says that she heard that the guys appointed her as a guard and asks what his name is. The servant says his name is Fabian Knox. The brown-haired woman compliments him, saying that it is a beautiful name. The guy looks away and thanks his mistress. The girl looks at Fabian and claims that as she thought, the guy is awkward with her. The knight realizes that he was too obvious. The main character claims that she understands, because everyone knows that the Balasith and Winterfell families are enemies. Nadia will assure that her feelings for the Marquis are real. Fabian no longer knows who to believe. He remembers Glenn's words about not judging by appearance. The knight waves his hands and says that he is just very shy. The guy asks if his mistress's mother is in the north for the first time, and offers to tell him about the north while they are driving. The brown-haired woman thanks Fabian. She was just bored. The main character thinks what a relief it is. It seems that she managed to break through the barrier of the younger knight. After the story, Nadia falls asleep. The girl wakes up from a knock on the window. Opening the window, she sees her knight. He invites the lady to go out for a while, because they have arrived at the Winterfell mansion. The brown-haired woman, of course, knew that preparations for the wedding ceremony were in a hurry, but she did not expect this at all. Rumors claim that Glenn's mother brought this wedding dress with her. It wasn't long before the wedding, so the decision was made to choose it. The maid claims that the girl may have already heard, but now there is an influx of monsters in the north and a lean season, so people are not in the best position, which is why a modest wedding ceremony is planned. The maid claims that of course a wedding comes once in a lifetime, but the main character doesn't let her finish her sentence and says that everything is fine. She understands. The maid is shocked by this answer. She asks what her mistress said. Nadia claims that if she's next to Glenn, it doesn't matter how big the wedding is. She smiles warmly and says that besides, she is now a marquise, so she must think about her people. A woman turns to the brown-haired woman. She says that since the girl thinks so, then she can be calm. The lady hopes that Nadia will always think this way. The main character greets Mrs. Grace. Grace Ground is Glenn of Winterfell's aunt. The previous marquise has already died, and the previous marquis is bedridden, so she is now the eldest madam in this family. The woman claims that this dress suits Nadia very well. She says that when Glenn sees her, who will go crazy. The main character thanks the lady and says that she would be glad. A lady with silver hair approaches the girl and takes a strand of her hair in her hand. She tells Nadia that because of her father, Glenn is even rude to her, but assures that there is nothing to worry about because the brown-haired woman is so beautiful that over time Glenn will open his heart to her.